Hello and welcome back to my channel. I asked in my June favorites video if you wanted to see a review at some point of the Subculture palette. A couple of you said yes, so here we are today. In case you're not super into the makeup world on the internet, when this palette launched last year, it was met with so much internet controversy. So many people were trashing this palette, trashing the quality of the eyeshadows. There was a little bit of Twitter spats and Instagram spats between, influencers and the team at Anastasia Beverly Hills. Norvina is Anastasia's daughter, and I think she's chief creative officer of the company, and she was going at people and all this fights, all this stuff. And it kind of, even, quality of the eyeshadow palette aside, the fact that it was so surrounded by controversy made me not want to touch it. Regardless of the color scheme, and my sister actually wanted to buy this palette, and I talked her out of it at the time because it had such bad reviews. Now I bought it for myself. I realize that makes me a massive hypocrite. I apologize, Sam. Now, before I talk any more about this eyeshadow palette, I do want to take a look at it on the Sephora website. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture eyeshadow palette. Retails for $55 Canadian. What it is: an essential eyeshadow collection with 14 shades featuring grungy mattes and bold metallics with an underground edge. Each of these shadows is made in highly pigmented, easy-to-blend formulas. The palette comes with a dual-sided, soft bristle brush for easy application. How to use: dual-chrome shades, cube electric. It tells you how to use it specifically. Metallic shades, just one ADORN, ultra matte shades, all that. So it actually does give you tips and tricks on how to use each of the shades. Anastasia Beverly Hills is a cruelty-free brand, if that matters to you as well. Now, the Subculture palette was made to be a sister palette to the Modern Renaissance palette, which I also have. Norvina said in a video that she had made that if Modern Renaissance is day, Subculture is night. So keeping that in mind, I definitely understand the color schemes, how this one would be day and this one would be night. This one's a little more wearable for people for every day, and whereas this one's a little grungy, a little more nighttime appropriate. But with that being said, there is definitely a formula difference between Modern Renaissance and Subculture, and I don't think, in my personal opinion, it's right to call something a sister palette if they're going to change the formula. They should have kept it fundamentally the same formula. Oh, bye, Lena. First and foremost, I want to say that similar to the Modern Renaissance palette, the brush that comes with the Subculture palette is a piece of garbage. I don't understand how e.l.f. can make $3 brushes that are amazing and last me a literal lifetime, and Anastasia Beverly Hills puts pieces of junk in their $55 eyeshadow palettes. The first time I took this brush out of the palette, I touched it to my hand and bristles started to fall out. Thought maybe I needed to wash it. Tons of bristles fell out. I try to use it, it's a little bit scratchy, bristles keep falling out of both sides. Just a really bad brush. At that point, I almost wish that there was no brush in the palette and they had just gotten rid of all this space at the bottom. Please, ABH, if you're gonna put brushes in your palettes, make them decent brushes, not this. I literally only kept this brush so I could hold it up and be angry in this video, and now I'm gonna throw it out. So when it comes to my thoughts on the actual palette itself, I definitely don't think it deserved the hate it got. A lot of people were taking big fluffy brushes, putting them in some of these matte shades, swirling it around, and then getting angry at all the kick up. Well, the reality of the situation is, Modern Renaissance kind of does that too. Modern Renaissance is a messy palette. It's just not, you're gonna get kick up all over the palette with these shadows. You just are. So I wouldn't be mad at it for that reason. And then the second part of that is, why are you doing that? You don't apply eyeshadow by taking a big old fluffy brush, throwing it in a shade, and just going ham. Put it in, tap it off, go for it. These shadows are so pigmented that you really only need to touch the brush to the shadow, and that's it. And then tap it off, and then go for it. And if you do it like that, it blends seamlessly, blends perfectly, and blends easily. So with that in mind, I really appreciate actually all of the matte shades in this palette. The colors are beautiful, they're very pigmented. I find them very easy to blend, having used all of them many times now. The shade ADORN is their metallic shade, and that is typical of a shimmery metallic shade to me. Can be applied with a brush. I prefer with my finger, that sort of thing. Now, my only shadow issues with this palette are with the shades Electric and Cube. They're so-called duochrome shades. I don't know what's wrong with the formula of those two shades, but for some reason, every time I try to use them, it's like they pack themselves harder into the pan as I'm trying to use them. If I use a brush, if I use my finger, it's like I can't get anything out. I almost had to take a spoolie and like rough up the top of the shadow in order to pick anything up. So today I'm wearing electric on the inner corner of my eye. It works great for that. It is very reflective and nice, but I don't think I could use it as a full lid color or anything like that because I just can't get it out, you know? Like it's too much work. So I think if they were gonna change anything about this palette, that would be my only thing, is like make cube and electric. Something weird happened with the formula of those two, and I don't like it. I don't want to feel like I have to work to make eyeshadows function properly for me, and those two I have a very hard time with. But the rest of the shades in this palette are beautiful, and I really like them, and I really like that, you know, it's not something we see all the time. This is a very heavy, dark look for me, but it's something that I wouldn't have created without this palette. This is something very unique, very different, definitely grungy, and it's nice to have a palette that wasn't afraid to break away from that mold. And I think one of the reasons Anastasia can get away with trying, you know, new things like that is because Modern Renaissance was kind of like a trailblazer in that way. After Modern Renaissance came out, it was like the best-selling palette in Sephora of ever, and then all these other companies started making dupes. I think even Wet n Wild has a Modern Renaissance dupe at this point, so Subculture, I think, was kind of their attempt to repeat that. And because the shadows are so soft and people were able to like kick them up and make clickbait videos, honestly, I'm not trying to be shady, but I really do think that it's like one of those things that people just kept going on and on and on about because they knew it would get views, you know? So I like this palette. I have no cons with this palette. I like using it. So to create this eye look today, I actually did have to start out with one shade from the Modern Renaissance palette. I used their light sort of bone shade. That's my one thing about this palette. It doesn't really have a matte shade to like set your eyeshadow primer down with, so I used the shade Tempera from Modern Renaissance. And then I went in with the shade Dawn. Dawn is like my go-to eyeshadow transition color these days. And then I kind of just started fluffing out Dawn with some warmer shades. I used Roxy, and then I used Edge, and then I used New Wave to kind of create this sort of browny, warmy crease color. And then once I was settled with that, I went into the shade Mercury on a really skinny fluffy brush to put it right in my crease. And then I went in with my finger in the shade Axis and put that all over my lid. And then I took the shade Destiny, which is this really beautiful matte sort of army green color, and patted that just in the center of my eyelid to create kind of like a matte halo eye. And then I did the rest of my makeup. And then when I came back under my eyes, I didn't shoot this because I'm a goof and I forgot, but I used the shade Axis under my eyes, and then I just blended it out with Dawn. And that's it. It was really easy. It took me like maybe 5 minutes overall to do this eye look, and then I threw on some black liner in my waterline lashes, and then dug my finger into the shade Electric to put it on my inner corners. I know swatches really matter to some people, so I will do them for you. Here are the swatches. So as you can see, the only two swatches that are somewhat disappointing are Cube over here, which you can hardly even see. Like, it's only if my wrist really catches the light that you can see the pink. And Electric over here, which isn't as bad. It's definitely got more reflect to it than Cube does. But the rest of the shades, the matte shades and the metallic shade ADORN, clearly have a lot of pigment to them. And I just did my usual swatching of 1, 2, 3, and then one swipe down, another swipe if it had too much followed on it. And that's it. That's how I always swatch, and that's how I did it. And look at how bright and how full these swatches are. And one more thing I wanted to point out while I was still here in the bathroom shooting the swatches. It is a common theory that the bad Subculture palettes are of the P7 batch number on the back of the palette, kind of thinking that the swatches with P7 and then some numbers on the back of the palette, there was an issue with that batch, and that's when they sent out. So let me show you my batch number on my palette. Don't know if you can make that out there. P7G12, which means allegedly my palette is of the bad batch. And overall, yeah, that if I had to have gripes with this palette, it would be the brush is terrible. And I wish the shades Cube and Electric were a little easier to work with. The way you can just like touch a brush to any of the matte shades and pick up enough color to, you know, do your eye and have it look nice. I wish it was as easy with Electric and Cube, but it's just not. Like, I just find that if I really want them, I really have to work for it, you know? But overall, I like this palette. I think it's a nice, unique palette. I think it's different from what we're used to, which is great because I'm so freaking tired of palettes that look like, you know, warms, oranges, and that sort of thing. Like, I don't need any more Naked Heats. I don't need any more of those, you know? I'm done. That's over. Let's do some unique stuff now. Thanks. And anyway, those are my thoughts on the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture eyeshadow palette. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed already. If you have any products you would like me to do a Tuesday review on in the future, please let me know in the comments below because I would love to make that for you. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!